So this is an idea to respond to the global commons issue we have in dealing with climate change, the fact that we have a multilateral process that is not at the moment succeeding. There is therefore a need to move very large amounts of capital, particularly into the emerging markets, so that a low carbon prosperity trajectory is possible for the bulk of the world, especially that which is going to be consuming energy in very large amounts in the years ahead. And that we don't use the failure at the moment to agree multilaterally the precise allocation of responsibility to deal with this issue as an excuse for inaction. So whilst I remain entirely committed to the multilateral process, I'm very interested in plurilateral responses too, and a smaller group of countries perhaps getting together that make it easier to agree reduction targets, which in turn make it easier to set policy objectives, which in turn make it easier to stimulate investment into low carbon technologies and the transformation of our energy systems so that they deliver the basic needs of humanity without exposing them to risks from climate change. I'm all in favor of that. But I sense that in this year ahead, we have to do something emblematic that displays the potential for deploying capital at scale into the low carbon economy of the future. And you need to show by example what can be done by bringing together the interests in specific forms that have the capacity to make this capital go to work now, because we're up against a time pressure. We can't simply carry on waiting till some magical moment where we have universal agreement about what to do. We're going to have to accept a certain amount of ad hocery, various instruments being used in different ways around the world, but we've got to make sure that we begin the process of this redeployment of our resources, and we do it in ways that are iconic and attractive and alluring to the powerful interests that we have that have the capacity to do the redesign and the rebuild. I happen to be particularly interested in what it takes to move the institutional investors who have enormous power to make a difference in this area. We know that there needs to be an alignment between public interest, finance, technology, and the social conditions which make it acceptable to receive this capital into the emerging markets in particular. And that requires some convening. It's actually taking place, I think, rather wonderfully in the World Economic Forum, although it's a limited, let's face it, and rather elite group. But the elements are here, and something has got underway here which is looking attractive. I like the idea of providing a point of attraction for entrepreneurship. So some of the things you will see in this list are, in my view, relatively close at hand. I think this is an achievable list of possibilities. So there's interest from multilateral development banks, from institutional investors, from specialist managers, from governments who are aware that the public money that is being promised at the moment is insufficient to make a material difference to the way in which we produce and consume energy in our society. So I think if we would focus on fund construction, bearing in mind this is all to be done without the need for multilateral agreement in Mexico at the end of the year. It's going to be done before then, and I have some ideas about exactly what form that could take, but constructing a fund that could be used to deploy capital into low carbon technologies. Focusing on iconic projects, concentrated solar, possibly carbon capture and storage, possibly smart grids. We know that in order to make renewable energy a viable prospect, we have to take demand down. All of these things can be done provided you really understand how the investment chain works. Who needs to be incentivized? How do you align those incentives? How do you get past the after you? Because we have an after you in government, we also have an after you in finance. Most investors are conservative, would prefer to come second. Once you've proved this territory, then I can come in. We need to find ways in which we can display need, opportunity, and something alluring that can be done now that you can display. I think that can be done with fund creation, with iconic projects, and I think it can be done this year by putting together these interests, and I think this forum can help to do it.
Stay there a second.